They see you before you speak. They feel you before you enter the room. Before your name is mentioned, your presence is known, not just by people, but by spirits. You wonder why you're watched so closely, why your energy is met with tension, curiosity, or resistance. It's because in the spiritual world, you're not just another person passing by. You're marked, chosen, identified by heaven, recognized by hell, and guarded by realms you can't even see. You don't need a title. You don't need a spotlight. The light inside you already reveals your truth, and that truth threatens anything built on lies. You carry something ancient, something eternal. You didn't earn it. It was assigned. You didn't ask for it. It was placed. From the moment you were born, the spiritual realm knew, this one is different. That's why the warfare has been relentless. That's why the attacks came early. Because the enemy saw your potential before you did. Demons don't waste time on those who pose no threat. But you've always been a problem for darkness, even in your silence, even in your brokenness, even in your most unaware state. Your spirit has always spoken with authority. That's why you were targeted. That's why life tried to convince you you were powerless. Because if you ever truly realized who you are in the spirit, everything would shift. And now it is. You're waking up. You're remembering. You're no longer trying to fit in where you were meant to stand out. You've stopped hiding. You've stopped shrinking. And in that awakening, you've become more dangerous to darkness than ever before. It's not just that you believe in God. It's that God believes in you. And heaven doesn't back ordinary. It backs the called, the surrendered, the ones willing to walk paths few dare to walk. And that's what you've done. You've walked through fire, through betrayal, through abandonment, through nights filled with questions and days filled with silence. But you kept going. You kept believing. You kept holding on. And now, the atmosphere around you has shifted. Where you walk, angels surround. Where you speak, truth penetrates. You don't even have to force anything. Your presence disrupts the unseen. That's why the wrong people can't stay around you. That's why demons step aside when you show up. It's not because of you. It's because of what you carry. A fire that can't be extinguished. A calling that can't be revoked. An identity that can't be erased. You may not wear a robe or stand in a pulpit, but make no mistake, you're operating in divine authority. You've been through too much to be normal. You've endured too much to be average. You were spiritually sculpted for something bigger, and that something is waking up in you more each day. You notice it in how people react to you, how even strangers sense your depth. You've become a mirror reflecting truth to those around you. And that's uncomfortable for some. You don't even have to speak. Just your presence convicts, uplifts, exposes, or empowers. Some will gravitate to you. Others will retreat. Let them. Your energy is sacred. It's not for everyone. It's for the assignment. You weren't meant to blend in. You were meant to shift atmospheres. You weren't meant to follow crowds. You were chosen to lead in spirit, even if in silence. And the more you align with that truth, the more the spiritual world rearranges itself around your purpose. Have you ever wondered why you walk into a room and suddenly things feel heavy? Why people shift uncomfortably? Why others seem to either cling or pull away without reason? It's because your spirit is loud. It speaks volumes without words. It announces itself before you speak, and it commands both reverence and resistance. You were born with a spiritual signature, a frequency that disrupts the ordinary. You're not always aware of it, but others are, especially those operating in shadows. Demons recognize the light, even when it's dim. And yours, it's blinding. Not because you tried to be special, but because you survived the storms that should have silenced you. The spiritual world knows who you are because they've watched you climb out of pits they buried others in. You didn't just survive, you transformed. You became more discerning, more compassionate, more aligned. And now you're carrying authority that doesn't just influence people, but shifts dimensions. Your prayers pierce, your presence awakens, your obedience shakes foundations, and because of that, hell watches you closely, not to scare you, but to confirm your impact. They don't fear those who shout the loudest. They fear those who are aligned with heaven's will, and that's you. You've reached a point where you no longer chase validation, no longer beg for doors to open. You walk with peace, knowing that what is for you cannot miss you. You operate with a different confidence now, one that isn't rooted in ego, but in spiritual identity. You know who walks with you, and more importantly, the darkness knows who walks with you. That's why certain situations no longer touch you, why some battles end before they begin, why the wrong people lose access to you without you even trying. You've become spiritually untouchable, not because you're perfect, but because you're covered, marked, chosen. And the moment you started embracing that instead of running from it, everything started making sense. The pain had purpose, the delays were divine, the isolation was sacred, because all of it was preparing you for now, for this season, where you walk in rooms not just to be seen, but to shift the spiritual climate, where you speak not just to be heard, but to deliver truth that activates the hearts of others. You're not here to impress. You're here to impact, to build, to awaken, and every challenge you faced has been refining you for this role. That's why demons no longer bother disguising themselves around you. They already know the power you hold. That's why people start confessing things in your presence without you asking. It's not coincidence, it's spiritual alignment. The world may never fully understand you, but the spiritual realm does. Heaven applauds you, hell respects you, and the universe shifts for you. Because when a chosen one awakens, truly awakens, nothing remains the same. Cycles end, generational curses break, chains fall, and the plans of the enemy unravel. When you were quiet, they underestimated you. When you were healing, they thought you were weak. But the silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. It was God hiding you in plain sight, preparing you where no one could interrupt your growth. And now, the spiritual world knows what time it is. It's no longer your hiding season, it's your rising season. You don't even need to fight the way you used to. You've learned that your real weapon isn't your voice, it's your peace, your presence, your posture. Demons tremble when you refuse to react. Darkness loses ground when you remain calm under pressure. Why? Because that calm doesn't come from the world. It comes from the spirit within you. The more you align with your purpose, the more your presence becomes a battleground. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're doing everything right. You're walking in truth, and that truth exposes every lie around you. You're moving in power, and that power rattles systems that thrive on fear. You're stepping into destiny, and that triggers every force that tried to derail you. But it's too late now. You've crossed over. The old you is gone. The timid, unsure, hesitant version of you has been buried in the fire. And what rose from the ashes is someone who doesn't need permission to be powerful. Someone who understands that obedience is the highest form of warfare. Someone who finally knows the assignment and is no longer afraid to carry it out. You don't chase, you attract. You don't beg, you command. Not from arrogance, but from spiritual authority. And that authority doesn't need approval. It doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be present. And when it is, the entire atmosphere responds. That's why doors open without explanation. That's why resources find you. That's why help appears at the exact moment you need it. Because when you walk in divine alignment, heaven backs you with signs that cannot be denied. It's not about being perfect. It's about being positioned. Chosen ones don't move like everyone else. They don't speak like everyone else. Because they're led by something deeper. You're being led by a frequency only the awakened can hear. You've been tuned into a channel where destiny speaks louder than doubt, where purpose overrides pain, where God's whisper drowns out the enemy's scream. This is why they can't figure you out, why they watch you with confusion, why your resilience irritates the darkness they serve. You were supposed to break. You were supposed to disappear. But instead, you leveled up. You matured. You refined your circle. You upgraded your spirit. And now you walk with a glow they can't touch and a grace they can't mimic. You don't just walk in the room anymore. You take spiritual ground. You walk with backup, with angels assigned to your path, with wisdom bought through warfare, with clarity born from chaos. And that kind of presence is rare. It's holy. It's a signal to the spirit world that a real one has arrived. And the demons? They feel it. They know they can't lie to you the way they used to. They can't manipulate your emotions like before. Because now you discern faster. You detect intentions quicker. You protect your peace more fiercely. And when you do speak, it's with fire. Every word drenched in truth, cutting through veils, waking up souls, and driving out darkness. People may call it intuition or vibes, but you know what it is. It's the Spirit of God within you. And that Spirit doesn't just comfort, it confronts. It doesn't just bless, it breaks chains. And when it speaks through you, entire atmospheres submit. You don't need a title. You don't need a pulpit. You carry church within you. And some people are uncomfortable with that. That's okay. You weren't sent for comfort. You were sent for correction. You weren't chosen to blend in. You were chosen to stand up. And you've been standing, even when no one noticed, even when it cost you friends, even when it cost you peace, even when it meant walking alone. But you did it anyway. And heaven saw it all. That's why the blessings coming to you now aren't random. They're receipts, proof that you stayed faithful when everything around you screamed give up, proof that you held on when others folded, proof that you kept praying when nothing made sense. And now the harvest is here, not just in the physical, but in the spiritual. You're being elevated in ways eyes can't always see, but the spirit world does. And it's trembling. Because one awakened chosen one can do more damage to darkness than 1,000 asleep. One chosen one fully surrendered becomes a portal for miracles, for healing, for revelation. And you, chosen one, have become that portal. The moment you stopped pretending, the moment you embraced your true self, the moment you chose purpose over popularity, calling over comfort, obedience over opinion. That was the moment the heavens roared and hell shook. You are not who you used to be. You are a walking weapon of light, a living testament that God still chooses, still speaks, still delivers, still restores. And as long as you stay aligned, nothing can stop what's unfolding in your life. Not the curses, not the critics, not the delays, not even your past. Because God didn't choose you based on perfection. He chose you based on your heart, and your heart has been tested, refined, proven. So walk boldly now, speak clearly, move with purpose. The spiritual world already knows who you are. It's time the physical world sees it too. Let your life become a message, a warning to darkness, a beacon to the lost, a reflection of heaven's love and heaven's fire. Demons don't step aside because of who you are on the outside. They move because of who you carry inside. And chosen one, you carry glory. You carry power. You carry God's presence. And no force in hell can override what heaven has ordained. So go ahead. Walk into rooms like you belong there, because you do. Speak truth even if your voice shakes, because your voice breaks chains. Move forward even when afraid, because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's obedience in the face of it. The spiritual world has already responded to your awakening. Now walk as the chosen one you truly are, not with pride, but with purpose, not for applause, but for assignment. The darkness knows it, heaven knows it, and now, so do you.